welcome back. Today we will be discussing about the principles of business correspondence. In my last video, I discussed about the features or what is the use of business correspondence. This video will be useful for you in the way to understand why and how should we go for our business correspondence. Business correspondence is a part of communication process where we go for our business activities on a daily basis or on a regular basis through writing, through the formal way, through the formal channel. Right. So clear writing means clear thinking. This was said by Marvin Swift. He is a well-known communication expert, and there he has said it very clearly that when we write with some purpose, right, that purpose is processed in our head, and that clears our thinking and the thought process. Business correspondence per se is an art of selling your thoughts. How do we sell it? How do we articulate it to our client? How do we propose it to our client? That is what business correspondence is all about. It is not a gift that someone is born with. This is what we have to understand, that I, as a teacher, am not born with the gift of communication. I have perfected it with practice. I have perfected it with lots of repetitions, lots of experience that I have gained in my past 15 years of experience. Right. So, as Brian Garner says, it is a skill that you cultivate. That you cultivate is what necessary to understand it. The art of business correspondence can be attained by the points that we are going to discuss in this video, and I hope that you will be able to understand it. And if you are not able to understand any certain point or any certain aspect, feel free to ask me whenever possible. How do we cultivate this art of business correspondence or business communication in a formal way, that is writing, right? For example, business correspondence can have an adjustment letter, but why do we actually need to write a letter, a business letter? You might be wondering that we are engineers, and why do we need to write a sales letter? Why do we need to write a purchase letter? Why do we write an adjustment or credit letter? What is the need of it? So first thing first, you have to write letters because you are the person who has to take up the responsibility. For example, if you are working in research and development wing of a particular company, and you are there to develop a certain kind of product, right? And if you ask me to write a letter, if you give me a list of items, and you ask me to write a letter for you, okay, I can write. I do not have any problem. But will I be able to maintain the same kind of intensity that you want, or will I be able to attain the same kind of features of that product? For example, mobile phones. Our mobile phones are we use Android maximum times. So which version of Android is necessary for your purpose? The same way, if you ask me to if you give me a list of chemical elements, right, Will I be able to portray the same thing or portray the same use that you want to convey, right? So that is the point, that you have this responsibility to get the product as per your specification, not as per my specification, because you know what is good for your experiment, because you know what is good for your product. That is why you need to write a letter, be it purchase letter, be it sales letter, or okay, sales letter. Why do you as an engineer need to write a sales letter, right? You are not a marketeer, you are not going for marketing it. Okay, this pen, what is the specification, what is so unique about it? As a professor of English, I can only describe it merely with its color, its shape, maybe a bit of usage, but how will you describe it, or how you will describe it will be different from what I describe it, right? So if as electronics and communication engineer you need to sell a product, sell say a defense product, right? Something that has to be used in radar system, right? You ask me to sell it, what will I sell? It will be very difficult for me to sell it, because I won't be able to make the client or customer understand it the way you can target it. You will be able to target the customer in much more refined way than I will be able to, right? So this art of business correspondence has to be cultivated. What are the steps in which we have to focus on developing it? First, think before you write. Normally what we do, that whenever it comes to writing, we simply take up the pen and start writing. Half cooked ideas are there and we start cooking it in our mind while developing it, which is wrong. A half cooked idea will be presented in writing in a half cooked way. So we must think before writing it. If we have to write, we have to understand the purpose, understand the result, understand the audience, right? So as we have already discussed about writing process in our unit 2, pre-writing, writing and post-writing. In pre-writing we have to go for brainstorming, mind mapping and free writing, where we develop the idea, right? And we in writing we get the first draft. Mind it, our first draft is not the final draft. The first draft will be final draft only after evaluating the draft, editing the draft, and multiple times, whatever we have to do, and how many times we have to do will be dependent on it. The second one is be direct. Normally what happens that whenever we are writing about something, we try to give some introduction to it, right? We want to go for the background, we want to go for the context of it, why we are coming up with that particular piece of writing, right? So be direct. In the first 50 to 100 words, we have to give our motive, right? We have to state our motive. So we do not have to wait to come to the topic. We have directly to come to the topic. We have to present our main ideas in first 50 to 100 words. Once we have come up with our main idea directly, we have to go for our arguments immediately after putting forward the main idea. Why it is needed? Because once we have completed the main idea, we have jotted down the main idea, and we immediately need to support it. Otherwise our audience, our client will forget it, or our client will minimize its importance, right? So we have to put forward our arguments immediately after our main idea. Third point is cut the fat. What does it mean, cut the fat? Cut the fat directly responds to conciseness, right? We have to be concise. How can we become concise? We must use verbs in place of ION nouns. ION nouns means words ending with ION and which function as nouns. For example, we provided compensation to. In place of writing, we provided compensation to. Compensation, TION. ION is there, right? So in place of writing we provided compensation to, we can always use we compensated, right? We have to delete the preposition in it. We as second language users of English, we normally use we are habitual of using article the and prepositions, a lot of prepositions. Why? Because somewhere in our mind it is translation going on, right? So we have to delete preposition. How do we delete preposition? If we say in my view, in my point of view, right? In my point of view. So we are using two preposition, in and then of, right? So in place of in my point of view, we can always write in my viewpoint, or even we can slash that in, remove that in. My point of view is, or my viewpoint is this, by giving our argumentation to it, by giving examples to it. Then we have to use words judiciously. We have to understand what we are using, what words we are using, and how much we are using. Is there any chance to cut it? Is there any chance to use single words for multiple group of words, for phrases, for expressions? Is there any possibility? We must keep sentences short, as we have discussed in sentence construction, technical sentence construction. The technical and ideal technical sentence is somewhere between 12 to 15 words on an average. So we have to use short and simple sentences. Remember that pre-modifier, modifier and post-modifier. We have to use single pre-modifier, we have to use single modifier, that is strong verb that we have seen in the paragraph development, and then we have to use maximum of two post-modifiers to keep the meaning simple, to keep away that muddled message, the messaging, too much information into one thing, so that the focus is not lost, the focus of that sentence is not lost. We have to avoid jargons and fancy words. I can always use fancy words, but I'm not using, because my client, that is you, is not at par. All of you are not at par. One or two men might be able to understand it, but not all are at par with the vocabulary that I have. So why to use it? What we shouldn't do. We must not consider our first draft as final draft. See, writing an answer in examination is time bound. We have to write our paper in 3 hours, right? for a certain piece of or set of questions. But for business correspondence, it is imperative, it is needed, in fact, that we must go through it again, and we must go through it through bird's eye. We have to look at it impartially, impersonally. We do not have to be personal that, okay, this is my writing, so it is perfect. No writing is perfect in first stance. Had it been the first stance perfect writing, I mean, everybody would have got 100% marks in examination, right? So we have to avoid that thinking, that concept of first draft being the final draft. Secondly, we must not put arguments first and then our main idea. Rather, we have to go for the main idea, then we have to put arguments. Another thing here again that is repeated, that giving a comprehensive background to the problem is not advised in business correspondence, because the client has limited time to understand, to read that, right? So whatever our target is, we have to come quickly to it. Otherwise it will be very difficult for us to go for that kind of preparation. And this is the end of this principles of business correspondence. Remember 7 C's of communication. They are very much important. They are the backbone of that set of 7 C's of communication is the backbone of business correspondence. We must understand it and we must practice all those. It is not that we will learn to write, or we will learn to write effectively in one single day. We have to practice it. We have to practice repeatedly every day, right? Hope that you liked this video, and I would like to felicitate your questions, queries that you have in your mind during this whole video. I also hope that you are staying safe at your homes in this testing times of COVID-19. Do not venture out. Stay home. Stay safe. Thank you.